Today is Sunday, July 19, 2020. Vision Diaspora USA have a great honor to interview Mr. Ahmed Tijan with Carlswine Production. Good afternoon, Mr. Ahmed Tijan.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. My first question, Mr. Ahmed, to you. We recently witnessed the terrible execution of our brother, George Floyd, live on television. How do you feel as an African leader about this horrific event that now has a global impact around the world?
You know, the West African community is not an exception of the brutalities that other minorities are victim of. Most of the fatalities that stems from police encounters are either due to racism or lack of training or cultural illiteracy. So the racism is just evil. It is something that is very hard to fight against. It has to fight against racism. There we should implement educational programs in our schools where our children learn how to be anti-racist from early on. As you know, that most of the racist police officers did not become racist overnight. It's something that they developed from their early age.
Oh, okay.
And then the second thing is lack of training. Our police officers have very poor communication skills. For instance, if they want to order something, the way they approach, the way they communicate it is very flawed. For example, if you have a teenager at home, you ask your teenager, do your homework and then go out. Or you tell him, you don't go out unless you finish your homework.
Okay.
These two statements are equivalent. However, the first statement is permissible, is permissive. The second statement is authoritarian.
Okay.
So the authoritarian, our police use authoritarian communications. For example, they yell at people, raise your hands, put your hands behind your back. This type of communication it triggers resistance of arrest, because most of the fatalities comes from resistance of arrest. So if they had a better way to communicate, to order people to do things, then resistance of arrest doesn't happen. But if the communication is kind of too much authoritarian, that's where the resistance of arrest comes from, because we're all human beings. We want to be treated with respect and dignity.
Okay.
So if the communication is not dignified communication, therefore resistance of arrest happen and fatality happen.
Okay.
So the other element is the lack of cultural awareness. So our police officers, so sometimes they bring a police officer from a very remote culture to come to do the policing in our neighborhoods. And in order to resolve this, either they need to get a cultural awareness training or including minorities into the police, like recruiting minority in the police to do the policing in their neighborhoods.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Mr. Ahmed. My second question, do you think we African immigrants are helping enough in this fight against racism here in the United States of America?
Definitely, we are doing a great job helping to fight racism. We are condemning it, we are standing against it. However, it's very hard to be a victim of something and be the resolver. I'm sorry, excuse me. It's very hard to be a victim of something and be the person who will solve the problem. So in order to fight racism, it has to be a national willingness from we the people, the communities, and the government. All of us have to come together to fight racism, but it cannot just come from one hand.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. let's talk about President Donald Trump presidency. What is your opinion about his presidency in general, Mr. Donald Trump?
Well, Mr. Trump has not done well his last 4 years. It's a very horrible presidency. It's unprecedented, to be honest with you.
Okay.
When Trump came in, he implemented the Muslim ban. He was attacking women, attacking minorities. I thought in his campaign, this is just a campaign, but he went too far outreaching to his agenda, to his exclusiveness, and I think Donald Trump didn't do well these 4 years. It was very horrible, especially the anti-immigration reforms and the deportation and all that. You know, it's really unprecedented.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. My third question, we are seeing Joe Biden gaining more support in the polls, right? I can say Donald Trump, he have 34%, Joe Biden 57%. Do you think Joe Biden, Mr. Joe Biden, he can defeat Mr. Donald Trump?
Of course, yes.
Why?
Of course, yes.
How?
Unless what happened in 2016, a mystery victory with an invisible hand of foreign invisible hand of Russia. If that doesn't happen, I think it's very, very easy to defeat Donald Trump. Donald Trump has failed all his policies. The foreign policy, the immigration, everything failed. The only thing he was bragging about was the economy and the employment rate. And with COVID-19, the economy now is in the worst standing, and the employment rate is the worst, I don't know since when, but all I know that he was bragging that he, the one who fixed the economy. Of course, he inherited it from President Obama, but now the economy is in turmoil, and I don't think he can fix it before the election comes. And then the insult was added to the injury. COVID-19 came in. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have died, have lost their lives. Millions are hospitalized. So Donald Trump doesn't take the COVID-19 seriously. And I know all the families who are affected by COVID-19 will not vote for Donald Trump. I hope so.
Hope so. If I understand, you want to say Mr. Joe Biden, he can win easily Mr. Donald Trump for this election.
Unless an invisible foreign hand get involved, Donald Trump is out.
Okay, wait and see. Okay, let's talk about COVID-19. How COVID-19 coronavirus is affecting your community in the United States here of America?
Unfortunately, COVID-19 is hitting our community very, very hard. You know, like most pandemics, just like AIDS and other pandemics.
Okay.
When this pandemic hit, it first hits the upper, class, upper, wealthy people. Like, for example, the people who have the luxury to travel in airplanes and go to foreign countries to do business and come back. Those, the wealthy people, they are the first who got affected with the coronavirus. But then when the virus came to the low middle class and the lower economic class, well, it lingers because we live in a poor neighborhoods. We live in a crowded homes. We use public transportation. No insurance. And also some of us are undocumented. They don't have access to health care. So that's why COVID-19 is hitting hard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmed. We have only 2 more minutes. That's it, 2 more minutes, 1 more minute, yep, just to wrap it up. We know, like African in diaspora, we send a lot of money back home, but we don't own enough businesses here. Should we start investing more here and less in Africa? Please, we have only 1 more minute.
So,
1 more minute. And your last word.
So I think the African diaspora has to have a balanced approach between investing back home and investing here. Okay. I don't recommend to completely forget back home, and I don't recommend either not to invest in America because they live here. They have to participate in the American economic growth.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmed. We have only 12 minutes. See you next time. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.